copying software. It's that people have software which doesn't come with source code, which they can't study, they can't change, and which it's illegal for them to share. Of course, they do it anyway, but those laws have as much moral validity as the past laws.
Well, then let's talk about copyright versus copyleft. What's the distinguishing factors?
Well, they're completely different because copyright is a law, whereas copyleft is a technique that I came up with as a way to use copyright to protect people's freedom. See, usually copyright is used to take away your freedom. By default, when something is copyrighted, that means you're forbidden to copy it or distribute it or change it. But I recognize that I could use copyright law to protect your freedom to do exactly those things. So here's how I do it. The software that I've written, and most free software actually uses the same technique, it's copyrighted, and the first thing you'll see is a copyright notice reminding you of that. And this means that by default, it would be forbidden, legally forbidden, for you to copy it or distribute it or modify it. Of course, it would be unethical to stop you, but that's what the law would say. But then I say, you are authorized to copy this. You're authorized to distribute the copies. You're authorized to modify it. You're authorized to publish your modified version. But there is a condition that any version you distribute, modified or unmodified, extended or whatever, any program that contains any substantial amount of my program, you must distribute under these same conditions, no more and no less. And you must make the source code available to the users, which means that they get from you the same freedoms that you got from me. And thus, the freedom is passed on to every user. So any given free software license is a license that operates under copyright law. It gives you permission to copy and modify and publish modified versions. Some free software licenses are copyleft licenses. Those are the ones that say that what you distribute has to be under the same terms. So these licenses say modified versions must be free. There are other free software licenses that do not have copyleft, and they permit proprietary versions of the software. The license that I wrote, the GNU General Public License, or GNU GPL for short, is used, I'm told, by something around 70% or maybe more of all free software packages. And for those open source fans, I guess it would be 70 or so % of all open source packages. Of course, that still leaves plenty of others. There are a number of other free software licenses. Some use copyleft and some don't.
We form part of the continent of Africa, a developing world. How do you see the free software movement assisting in the improvement of the continent, as well as places like Brazil, for instance?
Well, freedom is just as important for people in poor countries as for people in rich countries. So the freedoms that free software respects are the moral entitlement of every computer user in Africa, in South America, and in North America, and wherever. However, there's a secondary benefit which is especially important in poor countries, which is because you are free to redistribute it, you can, if you like, make lots of copies and spread them around. You can set up a distribution tree. You can, if you like, give people copies gratis. You can also sell them, but in this case, the crucial point is you can give people copies gratis. And people don't have to pay for permission to run the software. The developers of proprietary software are charging monopoly rents, each and every one of them, because they have a monopoly on distributing each one of those programs. And when a company has power over you, they use it to squeeze money out of you. Now, in North America, that squeezing is something most people can cope with. Well, most of North America, not Mexico. But in Africa, most people who can get a computer can't possibly afford those fees. So it's really good that they can find a neighbor who has a free operating system, like the GNU plus Linux system, and the neighbor can legally give him a copy of this software. They can share with each other in a way that's natural for human beings to do with their friends, and they don't have to fear the information police. And so every school in Africa, when it gets a computer, should insist on using free software, because these schools should not be teaching people to be helplessly dependent on proprietary software. You quoted Bill Gates once. I'd like to mention another thing that he said. He said that the unauthorized copies of Windows would act to get users addicted, and eventually Microsoft would find a way to charge them. So schools should not provide Windows or any other non-free software to the students any more than they'd provide free packs of cigarettes to the students. Schools should be training people to grow up and live in freedom and recognize and value freedom and maintain freedom in their country, which means teach students to use free software.
I'd like to know, what is your view on what might happen in the next 5 years with regards to the free software movement and getting that mindset into the general public?
I can't see the future. My crystal ball is cloudy today. What I know about are the things that are happening today, both those that provide us with hope and those that threaten us. What I see is that the use of free software is spreading, it's catching on in more places. But at the same time, I see that most of the people who are talking about it, using it, and encouraging other people to use it do not talk about freedom as the reason why. Now, those people may succeed in convincing more people to use free software, and that's a good thing, but that's weak. It doesn't build a foundation for our community to be strong, because a community of people who use free software because it's convenient, well, as soon as someone offers them a proprietary program that's convenient, they might switch. But people who've come to recognize that free software means you have freedom, that using free software means you're cooperating with your community, that you're ready to help your neighbors if they want your help, these people are going to resist very hard if anybody tries to make them use non-free software. So those are the people who will really fight for freedom. And history shows that sometimes you really have to fight for freedom. It doesn't defend itself automatically. There's only one national anthem in the world that makes me want to cry when I hear it, and that's yours.
Why?
Because of the fight for freedom that it's the result of.
What were your impressions of Brazil when you have visited there recently?
Well, I wasn't in Brazil recently. I think it was a year ago or more that I was in Brazil, but I'm happy to see the way the government is increasingly sustaining free software. And now Venezuela is also adopting policies to push free software use. And every country should invest in switching to free software. Every government should realize that the sooner they spend the money to move society out of this track, which leads to a train wreck, and into this other track towards freedom, the more benefit they're going to get, and the less it's going to cost to escape.
What final message would you like to send to viewers which will be watching this program here?
Freedom is in danger all around the world today. It's in danger from governments that say they're protecting us from terrorism or from pornography or whatever the threat of the day happens to be. And we all have to be vigilant and insist in maintaining our freedom above all. Free software is one part of a much broader campaign for freedom. I'm happy that I took the campaign for human rights into the area of computer use, into the area of how we use software. But the broader fight for human rights and civil liberties is still going on. We need your help.
Richard, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.